Hey people, we're back with American Gothic episode 8. Yes, 8. 8? 8. Why can't I say that word today? This one is Strong Arm of the Law, and it's kind of a gem. I don't know why I like this episode, but I just do. Is Caleb gonna wear yet another striped tee? Is this show just the backstory of Ernie from Sesame Street? Let's find out. Okay, so this one opens with another evening of Boone and Caleb just out late at night. It's like 8:30 p.m. and they're just out playing. It's kind of, I don't know why I find you guys are probably rolling your eyes at me for even mentioning it. Yeah, we all did that, but it's dark. I don't know. I wasn't allowed to play outside by myself at that time of night. Anyway, that's enough about that. They have this weird conversation about somebody called Davy Sharp, but I had to rewind it a couple of times because it sounded like they're saying Baby Shark, and I was like, there can't be somebody in their town named Baby Shark. That would just be so weird. Anyway, the point is, Davy Sharp has told them how to be peeping Toms, which is reassuring. So they sneak up to this house expecting to see a woman showering, and instead, which he's told them how to do or told them that he's done. It's just really weird. Anyway, they overhear some guys talking, and when they peek in, it's three men with these it's three men murdering someone in the bathtub. And when they turn around, they've got these creepy pig head masks on, which actually look kind of sort of realistic, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so I kind of was something bad is going to happen to these guys because they're bad guys and whatever. And I was thinking, nothing good happens to peeping Toms. If you guys know your Greek myths, Tiresias went blind from being a peeping Tom, and Actaeon was turned into a stag and killed by his own hunting hounds. So, just saying, generally, it's not a good thing to get into for many reasons. Anyway, next morning after the credits, we have two shady types at the breakfast table. There is something about a 90s bad guy where you're just these guys are obviously bad guys. It's just the shoulder pads or something, I don't know. But they have grits, and one of the guys calls them mashed potatoes. And two things strike me about this. A, I've never had grits and I'm super curious about what they're like. And B, where is Loris? That's what I want to know. So they are called to the house where the guy was murdered. The sheriff's there. Our good friend Ben is there, and the doctor is there. And the sheriff kind of, in the casual way that he has, sort of is okay, well, it looks like he had some heart failure or some, kind of brushes it off. But the doc says that he should look into it a little bit more. And then Ben just kind of quietly points out to the sheriff that the man who died didn't support the sheriff for re-election. So the hint is that, maybe the sheriff knows more than he's saying, which, I mean, obviously. But the sheriff takes Ben's coffee and just pours it out. It's so mean. So mean. So basically what we learn is that there's some new guys in town, and they're sort of doing a protection racket. They say that they are collecting for a retired sheriff's fund, but if you don't pay into it, they beat you up, basically. So yeah, super shady. These guys are amazing. Nobody did shady, bad guys, 90s TV. They have this facial hair thing and these shoulder pads. They always have these beige or gray colored, outfits. And yeah, I don't know. They just look slimy. It's amazing. Anyway, they beat up our good friend Ben, who is the deputy, in case you forgot. And I was just thinking, poor Ben. He just always gets beaten up on. Later, somebody is talking about it, and they say, like, Ben didn't have a run-in with them, more like got run over. It's like, I don't know why I find this stuff so funny, but like, it's just cheesy. Anyway, people in town are sort of losing faith in the sheriff because some of them kind of know, they turn a blind eye to the sheriff because they know that he's probably going to protect them. So if people are allowed to beat them up, then that kind of defeats the point of having, like, putting up with the sheriff, basically. Later, the doctor kind of notices this. It's like in a conversation in the hospital that the sheriff's having with someone else. But the doctor offers to give him a health check to check his Achilles heel. Like, what a zinger. Anyway. So, the sheriff decides he's going to go have a word with these guys. So, Caleb overhears all of this, but the sheriff basically says to him, like, I don't have a problem with you, but you're not being subtle enough. So he's like, you can basically come on the payroll. And you know when the sheriff offers you something, what he's offering you is not a good idea, but by the time he's making you an offer, the alternative, like if you say no, is probably worse. So, you know, here we go. Caleb does like a sheriff moment as well and just appears in the sheriff's car. Because the sheriff's always just like appearing everywhere. Anyway, basically they're not interested in working with him. They kind of, they're not really suspicious, I guess. Caleb searches the room in the boarding house because it's the same boarding house he's staying in. He goes into the room and he finds a metal case filled with, like, basically just with loot. But the guys come back while he's still in their room. And yeah, at minute 19:27, like into the episode, that guy just does this hilarious freak out. Like, it's kind of minor, but he's just really like jerky and like, I don't know, it's like he's on something. Anyway, later they go into Caleb's room and threaten him, and this is kind of like a turning point maybe. They have their masks on, they threaten him not to bother them or not to say anything, and they take back the suitcase that he took out of their room. And Caleb calls on Merlin, and I was thinking at this point, like, I hope she turns up because I like when she's in the episode. I think she's cool. But instead of her turning up, he just kind of like gets this funny look on his face, and then he lets out this like inhuman roar, like really, really loud. And they get weirded out and leave. And Caleb thanks Merlin, but I was kind of wondering, like, did she really help him just then, or was that something else? Anyway, so the sheriff's been like basically handing these guys bourbon, and one of them is just kind of out in the town, and he gets the guy into his car, and the guy's like, oh, I don't really want to be in the back of your car because I'm claustrophobic. And you just, as soon as I heard that, I was like, something very bad is going to happen to you because you said claustrophobic, and so we just know you're gonna, like, this is just not going to go well for you. So the sheriff basically gaslights him sort of into saying that he confessed to the killing. And then we're at Will Hawkins' funeral. So he's the man that died, who was killed in the bathtub, basically. And I was like, oh man, here we go. So the sheriff put one of the guys, the one that was in his car, he's put him, like, buried him alive in the coffin with the dead body of the man that he killed. Like, holy shit. Oh my god. Yeah, so as a little warning as well, the sheriff makes one of their dollar bills bleed, which was kind of cool. Anyway, Caleb tells Gail what he's heard and what he knows, and basically this is where the sheriff gets the second guy from the group. While she's talking to him, he ends up like threatening Gail with a knife and kind of being all rapey, and the sheriff just comes and knocks the guy out, and then he just picks him up like he doesn't weigh anything and just walks off with him. He's just picking them off one by one. Isn't that great? Like, I don't know, it's not great, obviously, it's horrible and dark, but you know what I mean. So out of the two guys that's left, one of them's overconfident and the other one's freaking out. So the one that's freaking out goes to the sheriff's office looking for his buddies, right? And he's like, I've got bail money, because he assumes they've been arrested. So the sheriff takes the bail money, writes him a receipt, and then says he doesn't have them. He says, oh, I don't have them, they escaped. So then the guy gets all nervous again. Not as good as the first time he got nervous, but still pretty good. And then they arrest this guy. And then there's this scene where the sheriff is on this giant 90s cordless phone. Like, it's huge. And he's making all these, like, puns. He's on a call to someone, he's just making puns over the phone, while this guy behind him is, like, hanging to, like, almost to death. But then I guess the sheriff decides that that's too easy. So he basically, that cuts to a scene where our friend, the doctor, trying to revive him. And the sheriff walks into the room, and then suddenly the guy's fine. And I was like, the sheriff just walks into the operating theater all the time. Like, this town is so weird. And yeah, so the last little bit, just to wrap it all up, the sheriff offers them a second chance, but now he says that they owe him. There's this great little moment where there's a crash zoom and like the door slams behind him. He's so, like, this character has such a flair for the dramatic, like from his puffy sleeved pirate shirts to like appearing places and like giving these like little zinger, like really dark puns. Anyway, it's just a nice little moment. So they decide to leave town. He basically said, you know, you guys should head north, and they don't. They head south. So the sheriff just blocks off the road. They run off the road, and then whilst they're like, the car's like upside down, so whilst they're there, he handcuffs them to each other and then sticks a lit flare in the like gas tank doobie. You know the thing with the gas tank. He just sticks the flare in there, and yeah, he throws them a knife, and he's like, basically, one of you can get away if you cut the other one's arm off, or you can just sit there till the whole car blows up. And there's just this little 1 second moment where one of the brothers, I think the brothers, like picks up the knife like he's gonna do it. It's horrible. So yeah, another cheerful episode. Poor Ben. I've like starting to have a real like Ben is not, the deputy Ben is not like a major character, I guess, but I'm starting to have a real soft spot for him because he's trying to stand up to this guy, and it's just, you can't stand up to the sheriff. Like, it's just, you can't, once you're in, you can't get out, you know? I don't know, he just seems like a nice guy. And I mean, the sheriff poured out his coffee. Like, that's so nasty. Don't steal people's coffee and pour it out. That's just, don't do that. Don't mess with people's coffee. The final song on this one is like an odd little tango as well. So I was like, that's kind of interesting. So yeah, that was episode 8, Strong Arm of the Law. I know I shouldn't laugh at this stuff. It's very dark, but you know, it's so 90s. I don't know.